You're watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the November 17th meeting of the Michigan City Board of Aviation Commissioners. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Board of Aviation Commissioners monthly meeting, November 17, 2022. Members present, T.Y. Upperson, Jeff Bartlett, myself, Kirk Hunter, Jessica Ward, Airport Manager, and Paul Schaefer, BFNS. No elders are present. We have a quorum. Anybody get a chance to read the minutes of the September 29th meeting?
I have it.
And can I get a motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the September 29th meeting minutes. Second.
All in favor? Motion passes. Financials.
Let's see. Account balances. So I will need to make a few minor transfers to accounts to make sure that they end the year in the green. We have no issues at all with any of our account balances. We won't need a transfer between anything. So everything is good to go with that. The City Council approved our resolution request to use the $75,000 that was already earmarked to the airport for pavement repair to be used instead for the SRE building. So that was passed by the council. They also approved an additional appropriation of $140,000 needed to complete the SRE building construction. So we got that passed through the council, which was great. And they also approved our additional appropriation for $800,000 for the above ground fuel tanks. So now we have to make a request to the FAA that we use years 2 through 5 funding for the BIL money in order to pay back the City Council for the project, to reimburse that, and we will be good to go there. So that's our next step that we are waiting on. Our aviation fuel, remember we have the additional appropriation in there. So we're sitting at 61.36% usage. That will be fine. I am going to need to order Jet A at least one more time before the end of the year. Avgas is a maybe. I'm not sure if I'll have to order that, but Swift should be fine to the end of the year. So we'll just need at least one more full load of Jet A. We're sitting at about 90 or maybe 7,100, and we could probably wait until we can take about 7,500 gallons. So we're waiting.
Okay.
75,000. Did I say 7,500? It's been a long day. Yeah. Okay.
Fuel sales.
Fuel sales. Overall, we sold 1,397.2 gallons of 100 low lead, 2,837 gallons of Jet A, and 182.8 gallons of Swift fuel in October. We received our load of Swift fuel and the cost increased to $6.75 per gallon. I reached out first to our flight school. They're the ones that use it the most out of anybody. And he said he will pay that price because that's how bad he wants Swift fuel in his planes. I said, all right. So I ordered the fuel. Our avgas price went down to $5.23 with our last load. We're sitting at over $1 less than other airports around here. Our jet fuel price is currently $4.78 a gallon. So we're looking really good in our pricing besides Swift fuel. And it's being utilized anyways. I ordered a full load and we're already at half load. So we've already sold half the tank already.
Actually, I'm amazed at the last load of 100 low lead that you got.
Oh, yes.
Really good price.
I did, which is why I'm not sure if I'm going to order more before the end of the year because I don't want, to have to take it up. I want to just finish it out at $5.23. Especially because we don't have the self-service avgas, so it's important that we keep our prices low to bring in anyone we can.
Yeah.
So that's fuel sales.
Okay, thank you. Fuel prices, how about EAA Chapter 966, Bill?
Yes, we have our local EAA Chapter 966 is working with the AMA Club 5504 to put together a workshop for building a model airplane and then flying it at the field in Kingsbury. They have 6 students, was the last that I saw, that they have building that. They build on Saturday starting in October, and it goes all the way through March 2023. It's for like 3 or 4 hours in the morning on Saturdays. They come out, and even the first day, I couldn't believe the progress that they made. And they're all having a great time. The kids are loving it. All the instructors are loving it. Everything's going really well with that project, so it's very exciting.
Big is the airplane.
Yeah, you'll have to come out.
How big is it?
It's about 5 foot wingspan.
Okay.
So yeah, you'll have to come out and check it out too. I know you were interested in that. Oh yeah, and they're gonna use a flight simulator before they fly it at the field, so they can practice using the flight simulator first. That came with the kit from the EAA,
Really?
so that was kind of nice. They got and it's the same software used for our drone cam, so it's really cool. So we have some extras, so they can all kind of use it at the same time and So they're also doing that in the hangar as well, as they're doing hands-on learning and flight simulator stuff, and yeah, it's going really well.
How about airport development?
Sure. Or you want courtesy vehicle repair? So our courtesy vehicle has been repaired by Caliber Collision and is back here at the airport. So I just want to give everybody an update on that. And that's it.
Paul, you're on.
Yeah, airport development, got several action items here. The first one is on AIP 25. So AIP 25 is the packaging to advertise for the road mowing. We're going to stop working on that, but we're going to basically finish out that grant and close it out and kind of put it on the shelf until, so you'll see a series of, we've got about 9% left.
Yeah.
22,000. There's a few other things that Joe's allowing us to turn in, and then we're gonna close that here in the next month or two. But this is to get you reimbursed for $8,550 of expenses you incurred. So it's partial pay request number 3. And it's 100% Fed funds coming back to reimburse you for items.
Was that for the cut bank? Cut wall, I should say?
Yeah, it's the finish, right, so that, there was 249,000 total in that, but that reimbursed the last portion of the road design and some of the grant administration on that. So,
I think I did just get another invoice for that.
yeah, so we've got all the AIP 25 admin invoices we need to get processed
Yep.
next month, and then the invoices that are on this
Got it.
one, and then I think there'll be one more to close.
Okay. That's for the last 9% thing.
Yeah.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve AIP 25 pay request number 3 for $85.50?
I'll make a motion to approve the FAA pay request number 3, AIP 25 for $8,550.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And the next item is approval of the construction contract with NewTek. So with the generous appropriation from City Council, we're able to proceed forward with that. And thanks to NewTek's value engineering approach, we've reached an agreement there. So I've issued basically the notice of award based on the time we met last time, that we would award it to them subject to the money. So now we've got the money. So now I did submit the construction contract. I included that in all your packets. Don't expect you to have that memorized, but basically we're going to allow them to pull permits and do all of the legwork over the winter, but we're not going to start the construction clock until April 3rd. And the reason is it's challenging to work on it. If they want to come out here and work on it in the winter, great. That just helps us get it earlier. But the calendar time will start April 3rd, which I believe puts the completion date like September 28th.
That's fair, it's common sense.
Yeah. So I fully suspect they'll beat that date, but that's what we've allowed them to make sure we got the best price. So if it pleases the board, and I don't have the documents to sign because NewTek hasn't signed them yet. We usually have them sign it. When they sign it, they return it with their performance bond, payment bond, certificate of insurance. and corporate resolution. When we get all that back signed, if you all approve this today, we'll get Kurt to sign electronically and or in person, and we'll get that back to New Tech to get them started.
Thanks, Bob. Is that the SRE building?
Yes.
Okay. So, we make the motion then?
Yes.
Okay, so I make a motion to execute construction contract and notice to proceed to New Tech Construction.
Can we get a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Next item is motion to approve the required federal fiscal year end SF 425 annual report.
Right. So this one is, this one is just a standard form that's required, and it's an interesting form because it basically is any open grant and dollars that pass through in those grants in the fiscal year reporting period. So this one we had $1,545,660.02, and that was the land reimbursements, if you'll recall. So that it covers AIP 21, AIP 23, and AIP 25. So 288,000 was AIP 21, which was prior cut wall design, road mowing design. AIP 23 was the $1,109,876 in land.
Yeah.
And then AIP 25, which is the one we're still working on closing, we drew down 147,328.83 in that last year. So that's the total.
Why does this cut wall design keep going on? We've been designing it for years.
Well, this is just the reimbursement. The design actually, we're turning in the bills. It's been done for a while, except the last 90%, we're just turning it into the FA as the grants arrive. Right.
So they're really not redesigning, we're just calling it
The
design.
cut wall design was actually done in 2019.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, how hard is it?
But it's been reimbursed over 4 separate
multiple
grants.
grants.
Yeah, right,
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
So we want to make a motion now to approve the required federal fiscal year end SF 425 annual report.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay.
And then the next item,
Once upon a time, oh no, sorry.
yeah, well, it is kind of a fairy tale, the CIP these days. The CIP capital improvement plan, for those not familiar, yeah, there should be a white, yellow paper in there. See that? As we discussed prior to the CIP meeting, they pushed basically the start of construction now to the 2025. So this plan has been pushed or changed to reflect that. So with that, we are not going to use the entitlement money. We're just going to roll it this year, if you please, and we're going to put that into basically the next phase of the runway project preparation stuff in 24. And then the physical dirt moving will start in AIP 25. So we are in fiscal year 25. So, not really, there's no changes in this from what it was last year, other than everything was pushed a year. And,
Is there any possibility that the funds that we're rolling over, they could take them away from us?
not likely,
Certainly could, yes, but
theoretically, yes, because any rolled funds, technically, they can only spend money in the fiscal year that they're in, so they're not really allowed to commit to the following fiscal year, except that these funds are your entitlement funds. So there's a 5-year enabling act that says you get this money for 5 years as long as it's there's a formula on your CIP. It's either it's 1/5 of your CIP or $150,000, whichever is less. So 1/5 of your CIP is a lot more than that. That's like $1.5 million a year. But you won the 150,000. So that's what kind of cues up the 150. But each year they have to have an appropriation bill to spend the money each year. If that by chance were to fail, then there would be no appropriations. No airports would get the money. So I think that is pretty unlikely that no airports would get any money. So.
And there's no way that somehow they could move this thing back to the regular timetable.
Oh, sure there is. Yeah, I mean.
So what does that entail? Somebody?
Yeah, well, TY were approved environmentally and all the planning, so everything's in place. It's as shovel ready as you can get a project. There is nothing further we can do other than we need people to start writing checks.
Okay.
And so how they would do it would be, they would write a discretionary grant. But the reason they're saying that that's not going to happen is because the national priority ranking, so this project is ranking an 80, okay? The amount of money they have in the AIP system right now that's allocated to come to this area, there's too many projects in the queue, and that cost too much. So they're saying they're not going to get down to a number 80 in Indiana for this airport. So, and it's kind of sad because we've got, like last year, there was $60 million in discretionary funding spent in Indiana, which that's a record. That's not been that high in quite a while. Normally it's around 40 million. So you think that's a fantastic thing. Indiana really made out well. And we did. As a state, we made out well. But the problem was the projects that it went to were very high dollar at larger airports. So there were only a handful, I believe 4 GA airports that even got discretionary money last year, versus compared to 10 to 15 in a typical year. And so what that's done is it's backed up the programs for, the lower ranking projects, which is as much as I think this project's important, and you all do too, when there's not enough money, they've got to prioritize the projects. And they've put some of the international airport projects above the smaller GA projects, and that's what's pushing it. Unfortunately, it's not going to go away because those projects are multi-year, multi-phase, big dollar projects. So unless Indiana figures out a way to leverage more money, or AIP figures out a way to increase its amount of money that they're collecting, this is going to be a problem. And like we've said before, the first year of funding, once they start it, they don't like to stop it. And so I fear that this might get pushed again, because once they start it, they're going to want to run it through completion. And so that's the problem.
Yeah, I was just asking because there are some of these guys who come out during elections and are screaming heaven, they're going to help development projects and stuff, Mr. Van, all these guys.
Yeah.
Like, is there a way to contact some of them and say, look, we got a prime scenario here. It's right by the lake.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of the corporate guys would like to use this rather than any place else.
Right.
It's just a stone throw to anything. So is there a way that, how do we, since it's not immutable, this is not, it's changeable.
Yeah.
Right? So can we,
There's
who do we
another-
talk to? How do we even start the process, the conversation, right?
Well, Indiana, even after the tax refunds that everybody got, they still had $1 billion surplus.
That's right.
Where is that? What's going on
So
with
that's,
that?
that's the question. Like,
Right.
is there somebody we can start a conversation with
Okay.
to say, look, okay, we don't necessarily want to say that we're that great. We don't want to compete with international airports, but at least there's some, raison d'etre we can push forward and say, hey, we got an airport here that's really, really prime.
Yeah, well, I think you,
Casino.
Yeah.
I think you do want to say it's an important enough project to compete with international airports, because quite frankly, it's not an ideal situation. We're trying to fix a safety concern here that is real. And we've already had one jet go across 20. It's just a matter of time before there's another.
Yeah.
And we got really lucky the last time that it was just a bent up airplane and there was no lives at stake in that.
Right.
But it's going to happen again because the runway length justification shows that jets want to operate here and they're even willing to do it in marginal conditions.
Yeah.
And that's problematic. We owe it as stewards of the public's funds and resources to provide a safe operating environment.
Correct.
So we need to get the money. The answer is, FAA is playing the cards they're dealt. They don't have a lot of control unless the legislature starts bumping up the money. So we need to talk to legislators.
Okay.
And then on the state level, and we could look at different pots of money. So there is a different pot of money, and I included this work order in your packet. I do not have an action item because I think we need to talk about this more, and today might not be the day, but the Rebuild America's Infrastructure plan with sustainability and equity, there was a program called RAISE, and it's a federal program, but it's 80-20. We believe this project would compete very well. It's completely outside of FAA. We could apply for it, but there is a whole nother set of guidelines like FAA has that you got to go through.
This is the raise grant.
The RAISE grant, and it's 50. It's an 80-20. So that's a hefty match for the community compared to the FAA's program of 95-5. So that's, an extra 15% is going to be a lot of money on this project. So that's something we want to think about. But also, this would take about $44,000 to get the project to the point where you can check all the boxes. And I don't know where we're going to find $44,000 to apply for it. So that's...
Well, I just raised a question because I think sometimes you have individuals that could affect some kind of movement.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, are we not tapping into them or are we just going to wait? The other fear is, of course, that if 2025 comes around and because the other airports are being funded, this could be shifted to 2026.
That's a real
27 and 28, and eventually we may not even have,
Then I tip over.
so.
Right. No, I think that's a legitimate fear, and it's something we need to try to fight hard against. And going back to your point, Kirk, on the state surplus. So last summer, when the state surplus was announced, AI put a call out for legislative line item requests, basically at the state level. We put one in. So both your legislators got it, they acknowledged it. That project has now made it onto a state list that the Aviation Indiana is going to be asking for a $25 million basically line item in the state budget to be funded from a couple of different sources. Not, ironically, not the state surplus. But we did ask for some of that surplus money. I don't think it hurts to ask again. The forecast already this year, we're already $700 million ahead of where projections were on revenue. So this year, it looks like we're going to have another surplus. So I think, as sidebars to legislative luncheon and things, of course we need to push the AI agenda for the $25 million. That's going to fund a state 50-50. So they kept your runway project on there, but they pared it down to only $1 million. But you'd have to come up with $1 million of local funds, and that would only put $2 million towards the project, and the project's much larger than that. So there have been cases where Indiana has put a line item in for an airport project. Jeffersonville has had a line item. Bedford's had a line item. There have been a handful of line items in there. So with the
How big were they, Paul?
not nearly as big as what we're talking. And I think the Jeffersonville was probably the largest, and if I want to say it was just a hair under $5 million, and it was for a runway extension down there.
That'd be a nice start.
Yeah, so, I think it is, we just need to build more awareness around it, create some more urgency, and just stay on it, and that's what we have to do.
And the raise grant, that money is from Indiana?
Raise grants are, well, there's two raises, there's raise on Economic Development Indiana, but we're not going for that, we're going for the federal raise, so it's through the Department of Transportation,
Okay.
but it's a federal highway pot of money.
Okay.
And it kind of goes into the multimodal, and the reason this one is a great fit for it is because it impacts the highway, impacts the runway, and there's railroad tracks over there. So you've got, it's a true multimodal, it's shovel ready, ready to be constructed. It protects the environment, some diverse ecosystems. There's a lot of different things in that grant application that we check the boxes on. So it would be,
What's the probability, you think, of, or chances of something like that getting?
I don't know, I'm sorry, Joe, I mean, I'm not sure, that's the thing, if I felt like it was a slam dunk win, $44,000 to leverage $25 million is right, that's a no-brainer. But I don't really honestly know. I don't know of any airport this size that has been successful, but I don't know of how many airports this size have tried. So,
Yeah, that might be a conversation with like the city controller and stuff that I can have and find out what their interest is and, you know, because the match I think is the biggest hurdle.
Right.
Is the local match for that.
right.
But you know, it'd almost be hard not
I mean, could you
to,
like bond the match or, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, we'd have to do something probably.
you get $4 for every dollar you spend, not a bad deal. If you can, but you still have to have that money.
Yeah, you still have
correct,
cash
that's the
flow.
thing.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
cash flow.
Yeah.
So that's that. I think for the CIP, we're kind of, it is what it is right now. Of course, to accelerate the program, we're going to have to get creative, and that approving the CIP doesn't prevent us from being creative.
No.
But this is due December 1st, so we kind of need to.
It was due February before though, right?
It
They
used to,
changed
yeah,
it.
every year for the past 20 years I've been,
Yeah.
it's been February 1st, but they bumped it up. And the reason is because the FAA has bumped up non-primary entitlement applications to now be May 1st. And when they were submitting in February, by the time they reviewed it, had their meetings with Fed, there were already
It's a
applications
rush.
due,
Yeah.
due, and they didn't have enough time. Unfortunately, all these deadlines that move up doesn't help. In Indiana, we have a statutory bid hold of 60 days. So they keep pushing all these deadlines further and further forward, but we can only hold bids for 60 days. And if they're not gonna write a grant until August or September anyway, we really don't need to advertise until July or August.
Yeah.
You know, and that's problematic. But in any case, they want this by December 1st, so we gotta give it to them.
Okay.
If you don't turn it in, then you're not eligible for your entitlements anymore, so we need to turn it in.
Where were we?
We're on approving the CIP.
Oh, I thought we did that. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the 2024-2028 CIP?
Make a motion that we approve the 2024-2028 CIP.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries, thank you. Okay, motion to execute the fiscal year 2023 non-primary entitlement roll letter. We've already kind of discussed that a little bit.
Yeah, so we've covered that. I think
Yeah.
you'll be in a good spot to recoup it. And the nice thing about declaring the roll now is that your 150,000, it's gonna be converted into discretionary. Because there's such a discretionary shortage, if enough people roll earlier, it could advance some projects and maybe get some of that backlog out of the way. So it is kind of, particularly since, you know, it's hard, all of our next steps are such big next steps, it's hard to find a usable unit of work out of $150,000 now.
Doesn't go that far.
No, it doesn't. So I think roll is the right thing to do right now.
So I'd like to make a motion that we execute the fiscal year 2023 non-primary entitlement roll letter.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Old business.
Do you have anything else before we move on?
No, I think, you know, with the recent appropriation for the fuel system, we need to procure a price. So next month, I plan to bring the plans and the specs and everything in, have you approve that, we'll procure the price, and then we'll use that, and hopefully, we'll get a yes or no out of FAA on whether we can proceed. So before we spend $1 of that, we'll make sure we get the FAA yes or no. That way, if it turns out it's a no, we'll have to revisit that with the council, because it was, that was a condition upon
Correct.
approval. So, that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Old business. Do you need to vote, Paul?
No, I can hang out for another half hour, 35 minutes.
Okay, old business. Gene Smith, 40 acres, cash farm lease.
Yes, so the last board meeting in September, we had some changes that we wanted made to that lease. I called Larry Smith to find out if he had a chance to meet with the farmer to discuss that, and he said he wasn't able to yet, so we're still pending on that, so it will be on old business for our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. New business.
Nada.
Claims docket. Everybody had a chance to review? Yes, everybody did. All fine. Can I get a motion to approve the claims docket? October, November, in the amount of $54,732.11.
I make a motion that we approve the claims docket for October and November of $54,732.11.
We have a second?
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries, thank you. Correspondence?
None?
Public comment? No comment. I'm going to motion to adjourn.
Make a motion with you.
My second?
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries, we're adjourned. Thank you.
You guys are fat.